It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of August 22nd, 2003. The summer movie season officially comes to an end, and we're starting to get starting to get into the middle of the dump months, if you will. I mean, the last couple weeks of August and the first couple weeks of September. This is that usually 4 to 5 week period where we start to get films that probably were meant to be bigger releases, but then the studio realized they had really bad movies at hand, so they just pushed them into the dump months. They just couldn't put them in January, but they wanted to get them out there as quickly as they can. And some of the movies that we have here certainly do feel that way, and this first film's definitely a good example of it. Jackie Chan in The Medallion. So technically, this is a movie about a second banana, which is a rare thing where the second banana gets the title role in the movie. But apparently, Jackie Chan is the ultimate weapon here, and kind of true, but he's not good enough to save this movie, unfortunately. He plays a Hong Kong police officer hired by Interpol to capture a criminal known as Snakehead, who's a crime lord played by the late Julian Sands, and stop him from kidnapping a chosen boy with special powers, a medallion that gives him superhero powers and immortality. And hi, Golden Child. This is literally the same plot as The Golden Child. I mean, it's literally the same plot as The Golden Child, except instead of Eddie Murphy, it's Jackie Chan, and it's not as good as The Golden Child. And that one didn't have the top action star of the world in that one. It had one of the top comedians at the time in it, and that's still a better movie than this film is. I mean, what else do they have in this movie? The girlfriend from Mallrats. What can I remember his name now? Jeremy London's character from that movie, T.S. I think Brandy was the name of her in this, and also we have the sidekick from Mouse Hunt too. Yay! I mean, The Tuxedo was not a very good movie, but The Tuxedo at least had a good idea to it. Just bad execution all around. This is a film that just feels like it's just like scrambling to just find anything to make it worth watching in the end, and it's just nothing in it works, unfortunately. Even Jackie Chan can't really save this movie from being anything too spectacular, and it feels like a film that almost could have been something special, but it felt like a film that was heavily messed around because of the studio interference. And this thing really is not that inventive whatsoever. It's not really all that inspiring. It doesn't have that many great memorable action sequences. It just feels kind of pointless. It just feels like a film that, it kind of reminds me of Bulletproof Monk, a film that had some higher ambitions to it, but it just feels like a missed opportunity all around. In fact, this is almost kind of like the same movie as Bulletproof Monk, except we place Chow Yun-fat, Sean William Scott, and Jamie King with Jackie Chan, Lee Evans, and Claire Forlani. I mean, it's pretty much the same movie. I mean, this movie is so much of a ripoff of so many other better films. Like, okay, better may not be the best way to say it, but at least Bulletproof Monk was at least tolerable, and The Golden Child at least had an idea to it. But that movie was a better film, though. The Golden Child was. But this just feels like a wasted opportunity, and it feels like a film that is clearly set for the dumping months. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is the one I went to see in theaters that weekend. The one I do remember, and that is My Boss's Daughter. Yeah, needless to say, I did not pick the best movies to watch back then. I only really went to go see this because it involved David Zucker. Of course, David Zucker is, of course, the guy behind Airplane and the Naked Gun movies. And, yeah, big mistake on my part for going into that one. Here you have Ashton Kutcher as a man house-sitting for his boss and getting into various hijinks with the people who come over to his place, because he's also trying to woo the boss's daughter, played by Tara Reid, the boss played by Terrence Stamp. And that trailer, I think, is a perfect sum-up of everything that's pretty much wrong with this movie. It's just all over the place. They keep introducing all these different characters that are surprisingly played by a lot of notable people. I mean, you have you got Ashton Kutcher, Tara Reid, and Terrence Stamp, but you also have Molly Shannon in here, Andy Richter, Michael Madsen, Tyler Labine, Pre Reaper, John Abrams. Who else is in here? David Koechner is also in here. Carmen Electra, you see. Kenan Thompson, Jeffrey Tambor. So many different people in this movie, and they literally have nothing to do in this film. Nothing about this movie works in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't feel like a film you expect from a guy like David Zucker. And I know the Zucker brothers did other movies outside the spoof movie genre back in the day, which did work. You know, stuff like Ruthless People comes to mind, and what was the other one they did? I thought they did one more, or maybe I'm thinking of Jerry Zucker. Let me see. Maybe I'm thinking of no Jim. No, I'm thinking of someone else because I'm thinking of something else. I thought they also worked on Down and Out in Beverly Hills, but no, they did not do that. They did do Big Business though, but this feels like one of those rare times where they do eventually go off and do something outside the spook movie genre, which could be interesting, but then again, it just ends up being a film that is just so all over the place. Like, you know, we got to have Carmen Electra in here to be in lingerie and, you know, get wet and all that type of stuff. And then there's this weird subplot where, for some reason, Tara Reid thinks that Ashton Kutcher's gay. That really does not go anywhere at all. Like, nothing about this movie goes anywhere at all. The best joke in the entire movie, we saw it in the trailer, was when, you know, the owl goes missing, and Tom just screams out, OJ is missing, and there's no time to relax, and you see the three white girls running behind her, and it's just like, that's the best joke in the entire movie, and you know a movie is bad when you're revealing the best joke in the whole movie in that one little segment there, and it's just, like, there's stupid stuff in this movie all the way through. Like, there's a whole segment, there's a pointless segment, you see it in the trailer, where, you know, Ashton Kutcher's character has to comfort Carmen Electra and Molly Shannon because Carmen Electra thinks she has breast cancer, which means that you gotta touch her boobs and all that type of stuff. And then, of course, Tara Reid's gonna come on in and think there's a big misunderstanding. He's just like, I'm just checking to see if she has breast cancer. And it's just like, jokes like that. Even the joke at the end of the trailer, where the dad is, where the boss is just standing there while Ashton Kutcher's insulting him. It's just like, okay, come on, get to the punchline. Like, it's not even a good punchline to begin with here. Like, it shocks me that this was a David Zucker film. This felt like a film that he was kind of forced into doing, and just feels like it's completely devoid of what makes him a good filmmaker as a whole, a good comedic filmmaker. And this is just a bad movie, man. Like, even though I like David Zucker's films a lot, this is one of those ones that I went back and looked at, and it was just kind of like, wow, this thing does not hold up well at all, and it's really not that funny, and just really, really bad. But on the plus side, he would redeem himself a couple months later with Scary Movie 3, but we'll eventually get to that one when we get through October. And look, as much as I don't like this movie, it certainly beats the crap out of the next movie we're about to talk about, and oh boy. Oh, this one was a rough one. Yeah, so we've been talking about how this year in particular was the year where you had white people trying to be black, and that was the main focus of the movie, and it started off with Bringing Down the House. Then we got Head of State. Then we got Malibu's Most Wanted. And each one got lower and lower and lower in quality and enjoyment factor. And those three are Citizen Kane compared to the next movie I'm about to talk about here. And that is Marcy X. Brace yourselves, people, because some of this stuff is just... Oh my god, that was horrible. So in this movie, Lisa Kudrow stars as Marcy Fell, a spoiled Jewish-American princess who's forced to take control of her father, Ben's hardcore rap label, Felony Assault, when he suffers a stress-induced heart attack due to the controversy surrounding the label's release of Shoot Your Teacher by Dr. S. To rescue her father's plummeting stock, Marcy attempts to tone down the rapper's bad boy image, the rapper being played by Damon Wayans. Over time, the unlikely pair falls in love, and just as conservative Senator Mary Ellen Sprinkle, played by Christina Baranski, vows to banish Dr. S and his offensive lyrics from the airwaves forever. I could not believe how bad this movie was. I mean, Richard Benjamin's made a lot of good movies. He's made some good films that have been really good, like some movies like My Favorite Year. You know, he made that film. I like The Money Pit. It's a silly movie, but a fun film nonetheless. He also did Mermaids. He did stuff like Mrs. Winterbourne. But then he makes those movies where you go, what the hell were you thinking? Like Milk Money, the heartfelt story about these three young kids whose main goal in the entire movie is to go to the big city, hire a prostitute, and see her naked. That's literally the plot of that movie. And but as bad as that is, this is even worse. And the funny thing is, we talked about Head of State. Guess who was originally offered the role of the Dr. S in this movie? Chris Rock. He turned it down as he did not like the script, and Damon Wayans is probably thanking him for that, but he's also probably thinking to himself, go fuck yourself for making me do this shit. And this is, I mean, those jokes alone should be everything that says how bad this movie is. And I forgot to mention, this is produced by Scott Rudin. He's done a ton of movies that we like. You know, No Country for Old Men, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, Team America, World Police, The Addams Family movies. Speaking of The Addams Family movies, Paul Rudnick, the writer of those movies, and In and Out, wrote this script. Like, clearly you see the problem here. You got all these older white people trying to write a movie that's supposed to appeal to a mix of mostly a black demographic, because you literally have to have a lot of stuff in this movie centering around this black rapper and his fan base, and like, shoot your teacher, like, that's the kind of stuff that would be seen on a Nickelodeon kids TV show, a live action TV show, or a Disney Channel live action show. Like, this is pathetic. This is absolutely pathetic, and everything about this movie is not only offensive to black people, it's offensive to white people, it's offensive to everybody. Everybody is offended, should be offended by this movie, because every single portrayal in this movie is probably the most stereotypical, the most blandest, the most cringiest comedy you will ever see in your life. Like, it's amazing that Richard Benjamin still had a career after this. In fact, I mean, okay, technically not the best, not a great career overall, but he did at least rebound a year later with The Goodbye Girl, the remake of The Goodbye Girl for TNT. But other than that, though, it's just like, this is the thing that probably killed his career overall. And it's just like, it's baffling how Lisa Kudrow and Damon Wayans still had careers after this. Lisa Kudrow in particular, because Lisa Kudrow, you know, when she made stuff outside of Friends, she was at least smart enough to know what films she would be involved in, and not just take a bland script in general. Like, you know, yeah, there'd be an Analyze That here and there, but she was also in the first Analyze This. She was in stuff like The Opposite of Sex, you know. She's in Wonderland, that comes out a little bit later on in the year. I mean, she knows how to pick her movies, and then she says, I'll take this film, and it's one that literally could have killed her career. And, like, I bet you when she was on Friends, and, you know, David Schwimmer and Matt LeBlanc and Matthew Perry were all talking about who had the worst movie come out around that time period, at least she can easily say, I win, because here's this garbage movie that is so... It's a mess. It's an unbelievable mess of a film that nobody should have said yes to. And the fact that they put $20 million in this movie. For a $20 million movie, which is not that big of a budget for this, it just feels like they wasted so much money on this, thinking that this was going to be a success, and it just was not. It was a film that was such a colossal failure on so many levels. It's almost as bad as Soul Plane. That's how bad this movie is. And Soul Plane's pretty bad, but at least Soul Plane had actors whose careers rebounded nicely since then. This film feels like a film that just was made by tone-deaf people. This feels like a movie made by a marketing campaign. Like, you know how commercials nowadays feel like they're so bland and clearly have no idea how to market to specific audiences? That's how this movie feels like. This movie feels like a film that was made by a committee of what specific groups will like in a film, and what's the most inoffensive comedy we can do, but which also may be seen as offensive. Like, it's like they took all those different elements and just put it into this film, and the end result is a colossal failure on so many levels. This is not only one of the worst movies of the year, but one of the worst comedies ever made. This thing makes Malibu's Most Wanted and Head of State and Bringing Down the House look like freaking masterpieces compared to this garbage right here. And like I said, this is the bottom of the barrel for that category of movies where you have these white comedians and white people in general trying to be black, and this is the bottom of the barrel. This is the absolute worst of the worst, and it's not even close. So yeah, that's Marcy X. And now that we reached the bottom of the barrel, let's go ahead and move back up the roller coaster again. Let's get to some good stuff. Let's go to the next movie we have here, and that is 13. Hey, what do you know? A movie that actually shows that Catherine Hardwicke was a good director at one point before Twilight ruined her. So this is a film that's loosely based on the early life of co-writer and star Nikki Reed, and follows Tracy, a 7th grade student in Los Angeles, played by, I believe, Evan Rachel Wood, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Evan Rachel Wood. And she begins dabbling in substance abuse, sex and crime, and befriending a troubled classmate, played by Nikki Reed. And also Holly Hunter is in the film, and it was well received when it came out, but it caused controversy because of the depiction of youth drug use, including inhalants, marijuana, LSD, alcohol, underage sexual behavior, self-harm. But, excuse me, ooh, good lord. But I thought that was kind of the point of the movie. I mean, that's really what this whole movie is about. It's supposed to be a story about how young teenagers get involved in drug use and how their whole lives just start to go downhill pretty quickly. And that's kind of the point. I mean, this is what Euphoria did nowadays. But this was like 20 years before Euphoria. And this was also around that time when a show like Skins also kind of did the same thing. But when we brought it here to America, we completely butchered that. But I mean, I could see exactly where they're coming from with the whole idea of, oh, you shouldn't use these young drug users in this movie. But that's the point of the movie, man. It's supposed to be a cautionary tale about what could happen. This is based on the life of this actress, Nikki Reed, who co-wrote the script with Catherine Hardwicke. And it's a really good film, featuring a lot of great performances, a lot of great visual elements. And it's not afraid to go that dark level that it needs to go down. It's a film that very is a cautionary tale about what happens when you take the chances with these drugs and all that, and look at what happens to yourself. And like, it's a really engaging film that still holds up as many years later. It's a film that I think deserves a lot more attention, and I think it did get the proper attention it deserved. It got nominated for several Golden Globes and Oscars. Holly Hunter got an Oscar nomination for this, and rightfully so. It's a film that's very well made. It's a film that is intense. It's not afraid to show you the cold, hard truth, and it's a film that pulls no punches in the end. It's a really engaging film, and one I definitely do recommend. It's one that I would say definitely check out. Yeah, definitely check this movie out, because it definitely is worth it in the long run. So, and also, you get to see an early film debut for Vanessa Hudgens. This is actually her acting debut in here. I just noticed that. But let's go ahead and wrap this up by taking a look at our last film, and that's Shia LaBeouf and Amy Smart in The Battle of Shaker Heights. So Shia LaBeouf plays a young war reenactor who makes a friend on the battlefield who helps him use strategy to take on his high school enemy. And driven by newfound confidence, he seduces the friend's fetching older sister, played by Amy Smart, and risks the friendship. Reality intervenes when the illness of his ex-addict father forces the anger his irony masks to the surface, and he decides if staying in the fantasy world is worth the consequences. Now, this is a film that was also produced by the same people that did the Project Greenlight thing, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, where they did the movie Stolen Summer the year before. And I really knew about this movie mostly from the fact that I saw trailers for it on, E! Back in the day had Coming Attractions, and they used to show this trailer a lot on TV. And it got me kind of interested to see what the movie was all about. And I was really glad that I got the chance to see it, because it is a fun little gem here. It's probably one of Shia LaBeouf's most underrated movies, honestly. It's a film that is very funny, but it isn't afraid to take chances when it needs to. It has good elements between, the dramatic elements as well as the comedic elements as well. Plus, it's got a great cast too. Besides LaBeouf and Smart, you got Shiri Appleby, Catherine Quinlan, William Sadler, Ray Wise, Michael McShane, Anson Mount, Hattie Winston. A really good cast in general here. A really fun concept overall, and it's a really good film. It's a film that I found a lot more to admire from this than the last Project Greenlight movie, and it's amazing that these guys didn't do anything of noteworthiness after this, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they did anything of... Let me see here. No, this was the only thing that they did, I guess. Even the writer of this, I don't think has really done anything of noteworthiness. No, I mean, this is just literally the one thing they did, and it's kind of an underrated little film. I was really actually kind of surprised at how much I enjoyed it when I finally got a chance to see it, and the trailer did definitely live up to what I thought it was going to be. It's a fun, coming-of-age comedy that shows a lot of potential for Shia LaBeouf in a year where he already... Ugh. Good lord. I don't know what's going on with me right now, but, Shia LaBeouf was in Holes, getting back to the topic at hand. Shia LaBeouf was in Holes earlier in the year, and, you saw those flashes of what his career would eventually become, and I think this is another film that definitely shows the growth of him as a leading actor coming into play here. It's a really good film. I do really enjoy it a lot. I think it's a criminally underrated film. It's definitely one you should definitely check out. The Battle of Shaker Heights. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we'll look at, I believe, no, this is not Labor Day weekend. It's the weekend after this, but, yeah, you can tell we're in the doldrums of the releasing calendar because we only got 2 movies here. And the biggest new release of the 2 is Jeepers Creepers 2, but we do have Macaulay Culkin's return to film for the first time in 9 years, because this is Party Monster that comes out this weekend. We'll take a look at both of those movies on the next episode, so be on the lookout for that one. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I'm off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.